I founded Be Resilient as a resource for single parents, and this YouTube channel is one of those resources. Single parents struggle with a variety of issues. 1 in 3 single parents end up living in poverty. Many suffer from different types of abuse. Sometimes it's physical, but sometimes it's mental or emotional abuse. And that leads to both short-term and long-term health issues. Today, you're going to meet Patricia. She's a single mom with 5 kids. She was able to overcome all of these obstacles, and at the same time, going to school at night and earning her 4-year college degree. Lee, thank you very much for coming here today and agreeing to participate in this interview. You're a model of resiliency, and I think as we go through the interview, people will figure out why. But I always start with an introduction, so why don't you just introduce yourself and explain how we met?
Well, my name is Patricia Dunlap, and actually I was going to Belmont Abbey College, where you were a professor there. I was going to night school because I was having to work during the day and then go to school at night. And having 5 kids, it makes it a little bit complicated to do a traditional college. So that's how we met.
I was amazed when I was teaching there. A large majority of my students were single parents. They worked during the day, they went to college at night, and then in between they had to take care of their kids. But yours was a little bit different. One day you come up to me and you're upset because you're worried about not being able to make the last 2 weeks of the semester and take the final. But I want, in your words, why don't you explain what happened and what you told me?
Okay, so I had a minivan and it broke down, and it was expensive to fix, and being a single parent with no resources, I was having a hard time trying to figure out how I was going to be able to do school, because I was commuting from Gastonia to Belmont, and it was just, there was no resources there. I have no family staying in that area at the time, so I was just having a hard time trying to figure out how I was going to make it work. So that's why we talked and ended up talking about also my the anxiety and the stuff that was being triggered from that.
I told you not to worry, right? That we'd work it out, and
Right.
I could mail you the final, you could mail it back. But then I also sensed there was more that was wrong. You mentioned anxiety. I sensed that a little bit. So you divulged something else to me. What was that?
Okay, so coming out of a domestic violence situation, I was being triggered from not having transportation, which trigger could be anything that why would that happen? So what's happened is because I was trapped in my house from a relationship for 3 months and not having transportation to be able to get around in my house currently, it was causing flashbacks, it was causing triggers. So it was just a spiraling out of control situation, to be honest with you. It was really, really difficult.
So the minivan breaking down was a trigger to certain anxiety, because that's your freedom, that's your way out if something happens, right?
Yeah, exactly. To anybody that hasn't been in a situation like that, you'd have to understand, like, that's, your car is your freedom. So when your freedom is taken away, like it was in my marriage, in the last 3 months of my marriage, that is the same thing. That triggers in your mind the same exact thing. And when we talk about being trapped, I was literally trapped. It wasn't figuratively. It wasn't like I was allowed to go out, I believe, on 2, maybe 3 interviews, and I wasn't allowed to take my kids anywhere with me, not to the grocery store, not to the convenience store. He held them hostage as well to make sure that I came back, that I never was able to permanently leave.
So he was controlling.
Yeah, yes.
What other types of abuse did you have to tolerate?
It was physical abuse. He gave me my first black eye. I was trying to get away from him and the argument. He followed me outside. We ended up in the yard. He pushed me on the ground, and he punched me in my eye. The cartoons that you see, where you see the lights going around,
The stars.
that actually happens. It actually happens. Like, it took me a minute for me to actually see again. And so he gave me my first black eye. The man that told me how much he loved me gave me my first black eye.
Was that the first sign of abuse, or did it start with something earlier, maybe less severe?
There was others that was less severe. It was nothing to get slapped for saying something or doing something wrong. Being pushed up against the wall. The black eye probably wasn't even the worst. The worst was when he had me in the kitchen, and I was trying to get away, of course, like I always tried to do. I wanted to de-escalate it. I didn't want to argue. You're right, I'm wrong, like anything. And he had me on the ground, and he slammed my head on the ground. And I can't tell you how many times, because I honestly was probably like out of it at that point. And when I sat up, I rubbed my head and I realized I had a knot on my temple, and that's dangerous. And he looked at me with the calmest look and says, "If you die, I'm going to prison." And then immediately changed and said, "Who have you been fighting with? Who have you been arguing with? Have you been fighting with my mother? She's the only one you've been around. Who have you been fighting with?" And I was like, nobody. And I'm backing up. I'm on the floor still backing up, thinking, oh my God, if I die, he's going to get those kids. And that was it. That was it. That's when I was like, I don't want to die. I want to live.
So what did he do? Did he instantly morph into somebody who was in total denial, like he was making it seem like he didn't hit you?
Yes, he literally changed, and it was so scary because he instantly went from, oh my God, I might do prison time for killing you, to trying to make me feel like that I had been fighting with someone else, and that must have been what happened. And the whole time this is going on, I'm thinking to myself, I have a knot on my temple. I know that I could die from this. What is going to happen to my kids? That triggered me to thinking, oh my God, I can't, I could die in this. And I was like, no more.
When we get married, we all have these fantasies about being in love our whole life and raising a perfect family. So I'm always curious about the erosion process and maybe something it might trigger. So what changed in your relationship or with the kids or with him, where he went from being a super nice guy that loved you to an abusive spouse?
It is never, when it comes to domestic violence, it is never you're a great guy and the next day you just turn into abuse. It is, what they do is they gradually eat at your self-esteem. They gradually. So yes, in the beginning, he was amazing. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better, when we first started dating, a better boyfriend. Could not have asked for a better one. But slowly, and it was years. Oh, it was years. I thought I knew him like he was great. Like, I was going to marry him. We were going to raise kids together. We were going to get old together. We were going to do everything together. And slowly, he started tearing me apart, telling me how horrible I was at everything. And it wasn't all at once. It was oh, you don't, you need to stop cooking that. You're not cooking that right. I remember one time I beat his eggs for 30 minutes. 30 minutes.
You said you beat his eggs for 30
I
minutes.
scrambled.
For 30 minutes.
Before I even put them in the pot, I took a bowl and I cracked them eggs and I beat them for 30 minutes. And I cooked them exactly the way he liked them. And he threw them in the trash. 30 minutes of my life I never get back. Told me that I still didn't do it right, that he still saw white in the eggs. So,
You mentioned the gradual transformation, right? So I like to call that the erosion process. Do you remember at what point in your marriage that you saw that first red flag?
when I was pregnant with our daughter, with our first kid together, I seen a little bit. Can I tell you what I know? I should have known. I didn't find out until later. He had another girl pregnant, if you want to keep that in the story. So he was already red flagging, and I didn't know it at the time. When I was pregnant, something felt off. And then after I had her, he was okay, but I still felt like something was wrong. And like I said, it started slowly. It was slowly, gradually, slowly, gradually, just eating at my self-esteem. Eating at it. And when I got to the point to where I couldn't take any more of the abuse, I couldn't take any more of the verbal abuse, that's when I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. So it took a long time. It was about 7 years.
So it went from self-esteem to control and then eventually physical. 7 years, that whole erosion process.
Yeah.
That's a long time to put up with abuse.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you did for yourself and for your children? Just general things like, did you enroll them back in school right away? Were they able to play sports? Were they able to have friends? Did you make sure, anything that you felt that was going to get your family back to a normal life? Because I know that's always the goal for parents when they go through issues, whether it's a divorce, a separation, abuse, whatever, they want their kids to have a normal life.
Right.
So that path to normalcy, what are some of the things you did? And then at what point did you feel like we're going to be okay now?
Okay, so yes, there was some changes. So my son was never allowed to play sports. So I got him enrolled in everything. He was enrolled in, track. He was enrolled in basketball, football. He was enrolled in anything literally anything that he wanted to do. I got the girls into after-school activities. They were doing soccer, Girls on the Run. Actually, a couple of them made front page paper for Girls on the Run, so that was pretty nice.
Well, just explain what Girls on the Run is.
Okay, so
because considering your past, that doesn't sound like...
Right. Let me explain that. Okay, so what it is a way for girls to get together and do an activity. And Girls on the Run is just a way for them to actually just get together. They do practice. I think it's twice a week they were doing it. And then I actually was involved in that. And we ran around the airport in Charlotte. So it's just basically a support system for young girls. It's a really good support system. Builds up self-esteem, which is something, I knew my girls needed coming out of a situation like that. So it was really nice. I I actually enjoyed it as much as they did.
Well,
So-
I can tell. I mean, the second we started talking about getting your kids involved in extracurricular activities, your whole face lit up.
Yeah.
So you can tell, as a parent that you felt really good about that. What about working and getting a car and things like that?
When I left I was still staying with my mother. I couldn't get a job. I didn't have transportation at the time because a lot of women, when they leave out, they leave with absolutely nothing. So I wasn't able to go job hunting. So I ended up calling the boss that I worked for before and came back to Gastonia and got the job the very same day. Then, I think it was like 2 weeks later, I got us an apartment. So it didn't take very long. It seems like when you're coming from absolutely rock bottom, that it might take forever, but sometimes it doesn't. And I know for a fact that it was God. I know for a fact the things that have happened, the experience that I got with my kids, and then also you asked about my kids and being able to have a normal, get back to normalcy. My house became a safe house for other kids.
So explain a little bit about how you used, your resources to help people going through similar situations.
I knew that my kids were not the only ones going through situations, and their home life was not all that good. So I welcomed all of my kids' friends into my house. So they knew that if they wanted to stay the night, they knew if they needed something to eat, or just somewhere that felt safe, they could be in my house. So that any given time, I would have anywhere, and this is not including my children, anywhere from 10 to 15 children in my house.
Where did they stay? You didn't have a 15-bedroom home.
No, but we would do sleeping bags, we would do couches, wherever. I actually had 2 sets of bunk beds. Didn't need 2 set, but we had 2 set, and my girls could pile up in beds together. But it felt good. It felt good because my past, I didn't always feel safe. So I wanted to give that to another child. And I know I actually see these kids out and they hug me and thank me, and it feels really good because, I know I affected, I know that I touched other kids, and that making them feel safe and making sure that they were fed, that is the best reward I could ever get. So.
That's great. I have a few more questions, but was there anything else you wanted to add? Another story, something I may have missed, something you want to share?
Oh, I was talking to someone earlier today, and I was telling them about a Barbie story. Okay, it sounds crazy, but when I was 9 years old, I had all my toys taken from me and was told that I needed to grow up. It was time to grow up. So when I had my little girls, and I had all of them, I dressed all of them up. They were dressed up. Even if we were going to Walmart, I made sure they were all dressed up. So it was like having my own dolls. And not only that, but I would get in the floor and I would play with them for hours. When I wasn't working and I wasn't in school, we were playing. So even though my childhood, I missed it a little bit when I was a kid, I'm telling you, it was 10 times better. It was 10 times better being able to play with my kids and being able to do the things that I wanted to do when I was a kid as a whole adult.
Thanks for that. That
You're
was
welcome.
great. So now I mentioned to you that there might be other, mainly women, but it happens to men too.
Right,
abusive
yeah,
relationships.
I agree
But-
with you.
So if somebody or other people in the future are in a similar situation, what kind of advice would you give them? They're probably going to want to know, like most people do, how long do I wait? You know? So maybe you might want to offer some advice about several things, you know, like how long do you wait, or don't be afraid to leave and here's why, or some of the things that you did. Because it seems like you said, we never like to talk about a traumatic past, but
Right.
being in a place now where you are at a place of normalcy,
Right.
you're enjoying your children, and now your home is open to anyone else that might be threatened in some way,
Right.
you probably feel good about where you are now.
Right.
But for some people that might not be at that place, they might be halfway there,
Right.
or in a problem marriage where they're worried about their safety or the safety of their children.
Right.
What advice would you give them?
Okay, so the first thing is don't wait for the violence. If it becomes verbal and they start tearing at your self-esteem, they're going to start getting violent. So the best thing, if you can, if you're at that point, leave. Absolutely leave. If it gets to violence, you need to start making preparations. My biggest thing that I learned that I wish I would have known then is there is a way that you can hide cash in your house and start saving every penny that you have. You put it in a hiding place that no one will think about, and it is most amazing that you actually can find places that nobody touch in your house, nobody touches, that you can hide. Also, since COVID, they are actually a lot more resources for domestic violence. The biggest thing that I see, because they can help you with clothes and makeup and anything, you can change your hair color, all of that. The biggest thing that I'm finding is an issue with transportation, because most women, when they leave, their car is not theirs. They don't have transportation. So I know we had talked about this at lunch yesterday. I'm working on getting a nonprofit organization together. I've already got a few mechanics that are online, and I'm trying to get a few more. And what the process is to get people to donate cars. We fix them up and get these women in a position, because when you can empower a woman and even a man, because we talked.
So now, let's say somebody decides to leave. What advice would you give them?
First, plan. You absolutely have to have a plan, and a plan of action of how you're going to do it. You've got to have money, resources, and figure out like how you can get that together. Hide it if you have to, but you have to have your priorities in order. You have to make sure that you stick to what your plan is, to make sure that you get out, and if you have children, you get your children out safely. That pretty much is it. Make sure that you have everything in order.
Great, thank you. And the advice you gave, they actually complement themselves then, because certainly if you want to get away and you have a plan and you want to make sure that you and your children are safe, the safety is the top priority when you leave.
Right.
So thank you for that. That's good for people to know.
Yeah.
Well, Lee, I really want to thank you for doing this interview. It had to be hard to open up and share some of those very private and personal moments. But I'm kind of curious, you know, when I asked you to do this, I know some thought went into it. Why did you agree? Why did you want to do this interview?
Coming from where I'm at, I would like to at least know that I tried to save someone else's life. There's a lot of domestic violence that goes on that's behind closed doors, and women don't know how to get out, and they don't know that there's resources. And I just want them to see my story and see that you can get out, and you can have an amazing life. I mean, so much better than what you're experiencing right now. So I just would love to save one woman's life, one man's life. Someone that is feeling like there is no hope. There is hope. There is a better tomorrow.
I hope Patricia's story inspires you. She didn't just survive, she thrived. She mentioned that she had her priorities in order. Her children's safety was her #1 priority. She explained how she saved money over a period of time, but she hid it. And then finally, when she was ready to make her move, she found a shelter where her and her children could be safe. And over a long period of time, she eventually worked herself into a normal life, a place of normalcy. And if you remember, her whole face lit up when she talked about her kids being involved in extracurricular activities and playing sports. It feels so good to be part of someone's success story. I'd like to be a part of yours. So feel free to DM me or email me by using the link in my bio. I hope to hear from you.